You're on.
We're on. Welcome to Fairport Harbor Public Library's Test Kitchen. I could try to say that again, but I won't. Sorry we missed last month, so we're doing last month this month. And this is what has been fondly christened by Bernadette Armbruster, shut up and eat it. Because she's subtle, if nothing else. And basically, it's take 3 things that you have in your kitchen, whatever ingredients you commonly have, and make dinner. Some of us drop them in a Google search and see what recipes that comes up with. But we have Lee in the test kitchen, so I messaged last night and said, I have a zucchini, a summer squash, and some garlic scapes. Will that work? Sure, quoth she. There we are.
Yep, we're making pasta. It's super easy, but this is going to be, when it's done, it's going to look a little bit nicer than things you just threw together. People might think you actually planned this, and so we're using zucchini and summer squash, which this time of year, people have them in their gardens. They're coming out of everyone's ears. They're giving them away, so it's a good chance. Ask your friend with a garden if you can have some vegetables. You're going to end up with these. So, actually, we're going to start... Yeah, we'll start with these. So I'm going to cut them in half, and then I will leave them like that. Do half moons. You can cut them bigger if you want, smaller if you want. It doesn't really matter. The important thing, you want both sets to be about the same size, so they'll cook about the same rate.
Where I flunk cooking every single time, because they're never.
Yeah, and so
is that just practice?
Kind of, but like this is a different shape, so you know that one at the end is only this small. The ones on the other end are this big. So when you get to the other side, you can cut those in half, and then they'll be more the same. And it's also okay if some of the vegetables have a little bit more, we'll say, bite to them than others. It's just not a big deal. So oil. And then, while those are cooking, we have garlic scapes. The only time you really ever see these, I don't think I've ever seen them at a grocery store, have you? You can find them at farmers markets. If you're a member of a CSA, you have for sure gotten them. These are the tops of the garlic plant. If they continued to grow, this would turn into a flower, and that's where the garlic seeds live. And you use it just like garlic. It tastes like garlic. We're going to cut off the seed pod end. You don't need all that much of it. Let's do...
And I learned a fact. Not every garlic produces scapes.
Ah, okay.
There is soft garlic and different garlics. Some of them have scapes and some of them don't. If you're a friend of Anna Call's, you know about garlic scapes because she keeps trying to give them to people every summer. It's awesome.
Yeah, so they really do have a strong garlic flavor. I think the first time we ever saw them was probably about 20 years ago when we joined a CSA, and my mom thought she would just chuck this in the blender and make pesto out of it because it's green, and that was a mistake. It was so garlicky. I mean, it was just like making pesto with garlic and nothing else.
Oh.
I was. Whoops. So we're gonna salt that. Give a little stir.
I'll stir.
And we're going to throw some cherry tomatoes in there too because I think it'll be pretty. So when you're adding tomatoes to something like this, you can put them in whole and they will eventually kind of burst open. We're going to cut them in half just to help them along a little bit because this is going to be a super quick dish. We're not cooking anything down far. So like these aren't going to turn into a tomato sauce. They're just going to be kind of wilted tomatoes, we'll say.
And while I'm not a fan of cooked fresh tomatoes, I love cooked cherry tomatoes.
Oh, good.
They're a different flavor, and they're way better than the stuff in the can.
Yeah.
And again, cherry tomatoes, if you know somebody with a cherry tomato plant, once they start producing, they don't stop.
We're gonna wait just a minute because I don't want the tomatoes to cook as long. So we're gonna wait for those vegetables to start to get tender. The pan was already hot, so the ones on the bottom are starting to brown a little bit. So we just have to make sure that they don't get brown on the outside while the inside is still hard. So it'll take a few minutes, but not too long.
Lee says.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
And then those will go in there kind of to melt a little bit.
It's so pretty. Do you ever take photos of this? It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a new close-up camera work.
Okay, just like Lee's kitchen.
We'll talk about basil for a minute while that's cooking. So let's do a little experiment. So we'll take a couple basil leaves. And basil, it bruises really easily. So if you don't have a super sharp knife and you can't get through, this is actually sharper than I expected. Surprisingly.
Because it's yours.
So if you cut basil like you would cut other vegetables and you want to say dice it up, the more times you go over it with a knife, the more that it's going to bruise. So we're just going to do a little experiment. So you saw that I just chopped that up like normal.
And what does bruising mean in the life of a basil leaf?
It's going to turn black on the cut edges. So we'll see what happens to this little pile. And this is beautiful fresh basil, so it's going to be better also than what you find in the store. Versus ripping it, which damages the leaves less for some reason. And so when we're ready to garnish our dish, we'll see which is the prettier pile. And you can always use your knife and chop it fresh. I'm not trying to say don't use a knife to cut basil, but you want to just do as few cuts as possible.
Well, you showed us
I showed you the chiffonade. Yes, we'll do that again too.
a couple of videos ago about how to fold basil so it's very few cuts.
Yes.
And it's kind of cool.
Yep.
And I have been using that, and that's fun. Of course, then I get impatient, and it's just like, screw it.
How are we
Can
looking
you
over
use
there?
scissors? It looks good.
Here, you can use scissors.
It feels done. They feel done.
Okay. So the next step, we're gonna add pasta. This is already cooked.
Because we didn't think anybody wanted to watch the pasta cook. What is this shape?
I don't know what this shape is. It's from Trader Joe's. They have really awesome shapes there. I like their pasta a lot. So add more salt. And we did salt the water that the pasta was cooked in. So when your water comes to a boil, salt the water, but don't salt it until it boils. You can mess up your pot if you add the salt before the water is boiling. You'll get little little pits in the bottom of your pot. So wait till the water is boiling and then add a lot of salt. You want the water to actually be salty like the ocean. Because just a little sprinkle is not going to do it. So what you have to remember when you're cooking pasta, most of the water is getting thrown away. So it's not like all of that salt is going in your dish. Contrarily, if you're salting water for rice, you have to remember that all of that water is getting absorbed into your rice, so you cannot go overboard with the salt there. Add as much salt as you want to kind of season the rice with. Again, with the pasta, we can go overboard.
And you use salt instead of oil for boiling?
Yes, we don't need to use oil because oil and water don't mix. So when you pour out the pasta and the water, the oil is going down the drain. It's not doing anything for you. So that's a step you can skip.
Okay.
This is what's gonna make this pasta dish next level. This is pasta cooking water. Before you drain it, just ladle a little bit so it's starchy. And we're gonna add a little bit into here. And it's gonna give it like this really slight creaminess and make everything come together.
I'm doing this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I got a gold star.
Yes, it's happening.
It's beautiful.
All right, now we can come over here to our basil. So you can see these ends have turned a little bit dark, but it's really not too bad because like I said, I used a sharp knife. But if you have a dull knife and you're just kind of going back and forth over that, this is gonna be a mess. But this one does look a little bit cleaner. Maybe some bruising where my fingers squished it. But then we'll go show you that chiffonade again. So we are stacking our basil leaves together. We are rolling it up.
Some of you will be better at the rolling than others of you. You know who you are.
And then you just go over it once and there you go. All chopped up.
That's awesome.
Do we have a serving bowl handy?
You know what? You're awfully cute. Yeah, we do.
Or a plate or something?
We do.
Oh, okay, we're gonna plate up the whole thing.
Or we can certainly plate it if you want. You can do that.
We don't need to. So all that water we put in there was absorbed. We've got a little bit of this creaminess going on. We're gonna put all of that basil, and we've got some shake cheese, and there you go.
Yum!
Perfect summer. You
Dinner.
don't have to heat your house too much other than one little pot, and there you go.
Perfect. Yay!
Yay.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
next time.